Before I start, I want to apologize for being late these past few episodes. I had a really good reason. I've been taking night classes, and well, night classes plus job means that my schedule was a bitch! I mean, it's not like it was a problem. It's just that when you throw all that together, it kind of messes your schedule up and you kind of lose yourself. But I'm back. I'm ready to finish this. And who knows? Maybe by January I'll have something special. Until then, here's a Hairier problem. Rise of the Furball by Blue Bastard, Chapter 21. Evil Than Us All, Part 2. All Raspberry Barrel knew she was going to die. Alone. She had been fooled to believe the words of a little filly that she could trust any pony. Absent-mindedly, the soul-crushed unicorn glanced over at the youngest princess in the group. Words on the floor meaningless to her as she gazed intently, rather unfocused at the princess of magic. Twilight noticed to try to convey how sorry she was in her expression, but really it was just more lies as Raz was concerned. Twilight had failed to keep at least two of her promises. Heliodor was out there, somewhere. The uncertainty of his condition making Raz sick to her stomach. Even though Apple Bloom and Lightning Dust had promised to give their support, Raz had noticed the two had not returned after the court recess. Then, she barely recognized the judge speaking for more than a few sentences, which probably meant this was it. Even though she knew it was coming, she just crossed her forelegs on the table and rested her head on them, hiding the tears. But before the judge could level the sentence, which, despite Shiny's best efforts, usually involving him dramatically slamming the table with his hose and shouting objection at the top of his lungs, was certainly going to be the death penalty. The back doors busted open. "Wait!" cried out Candlewick, who had oddly hurried away from the doorframe, only to return a moment later with Golden Sun. Between them was supported a birdcage with one very, very sickly creature that was a bird, in the vaguest sense of the word. The only suggestion of his identity being the faded green and gold plumage lying at the bottom of the cage. "Healy!" cried out Raspberry, horrified. Her interest in life having been restored, she barely resisted the urge to rip the cage to shreds with a mere thought and reclaim her bird. But at least the cage had been brought to the center of the floor. She then proceeded to use her magic to rip the cage apart and reclaim her blood. Where did this come from?" demanded Blue Blood, who suspiciously seemed more angry than surprised. "I don't believe I recall any pony saying to bring a bird cage into the middle of the trial, especially when it's practically over." "Actually," sparked Shining, "I think that's my sister's doing." "Indeed," said Twilight. No humor was in her voice. "I had the guards looking for any trace of where Heliodor might have been taken. Then the event he was found was to be brought back to Discovery, if not the Phoenix itself. Evidently, wherever he was, it was seriously detrimental to his health." Mumbled Fluttershy nervously, prompting every pony to look at her. "I see it's a little more than that." From the moment the Phoenix had been brought in, Fluttershy's attention had been him, and him only. The desire to respect the crown, because that now included her friend Twilight, be the only thing having stopped her from ripping the birdcage apart, giving its account to Raz. But although she had quite the experience with phoenixes in her sickly state, right before the fiery birthday we were famous for, Heliodor looked considerably worse than Philomena back then. In comparison, Philomena had been rather energetic at this point, right up to becoming a pile of ass. That was just to have some lighthearted fun at the expense of every pony worrying about her. Heliodor had finally returned to his mistress, but was clearly struggling to lift even a featherless wing. "It's going to be okay, Healy. It's going to be okay," said Raz, trying to convince herself as much as him as possible. Hope as he cradled her pet in her forelegs. Even though it clearly pained him, he managed to crack a small smile as his wing touched her cheek, before promptly combusting into nothing but a pile of ass that fell through her hose. The only creature in the world that had ever cared for her, who had done everything in his power at all times to ensure she was safe, was happy, and had been reduced to something she couldn't even bury properly. While she knew of Phoenix's having a life-death cycle, Healy had still been a year off from when he would have gone through his first cycle. No. This had been a death on account of a broken heart. He failed to be there for her when she needed him the most, and only found his way back into her embrace just in time for death to claim him. He wasn't coming back. Cheap! I called this death cheap! This is a cheap attempt to plug our heartstrings, Vic! Shame! She didn't try to stop it. No point now. She wailed hard, the tears coming hot and heavy, as she let the last of her lifelong friend drift away. We realized there was something else in the pile of ash. As the last bits of the former phoenix shifted through the ground, she was holding what looked like a hastily considered piece of a monogrammed handkerchief. Possibly Heliodor trying to tell her who had been responsible. He succeeded, as the piece within Raz's possession bore what looked like a coat of arms. The same coat of arms that was on the cufflinks of the pony, who for the past few hours had been insulting every last aspect of her life. Now to reveal even gone further. Oh, for crying out loud, complained Blue Blood. It's just a dumb bird. Just a dumb bird, she replied, her head slowly turning to glare at the one responsible for murdering Heliodor. Just a dumb bird! Miss Raspberry, said Shiny cautiously. Please, let's handle this. You don't... Oh, but I do, said the unicorn, instantly setting everybody else on edge, even the alicorns. Really, it was wrong of me to even think that anything close to actual justice was going to come to this, even if a princess promised me that would be the case. See, Cicely knew by this point the guards behind her were going to jump her. So right as they were about to tackle her, she cast one of the most powerful spells she had on Huff. Instantaneously, a pulse of dark energy irradiated from her horn and spread out to fill the entire room. No pony moved. They couldn't. It was as if she had frozen them all in ice, without the ice. Even the alicorns hadn't had time to cast a counterspell, while the effect wouldn't nearly last as long as them, as they were still critically vulnerable. Blue Blood, appropriately, had been frozen with a look that, had not actually been prevented by the spell, clearly indicated there was now bodily waste fluid backed up in him. Most shocking of all, however, was what seemed to have happened with Raz. Her mane and tail, normally sky blue and lilac, was dotted with darker spots, the spot around her cueing mark having color shifted from raspberry red to a much darker shade of mulberry, her cueing mark seemingly going with the color shading and looking far less brighter than before. All I wanted in life was an actual life, said Raz, her unblinking gaze right into Blue Blood's eyes, having never broken contact. The thing that almost universally is guaranteed to every cult in Philly, where they have loving parents who shower them with affection and raise them, where they go to school with their friends and learn their places in life, when that life-changing moment occurs and they get their cueing marks. Then they grow into adults, start their own families, and find happiness with even more friends and live productive, cheerful lives. Still looking at Blue Blood, Raz slowly got up, the rage building in her voice as she kept talking while taking her time to get close to the target of all her pent-up anguish. I didn't get to be that lucky. Instead, I got stuck with a father who hated my guts because I was a physically weak unicorn and been forced to take in place of my mother, who had died by giving birth to me. I got the lifestyle where I had to run from home when I was scarcely in my teens because every pony in town thought I was a monster. Couldn't find a stable place to live. In all honesty, the only reason I put up with the hell that was my life was because of a dumb bird who would love me for I am when nobody else wanted to. But thanks to you, a wealthy royal who decided you deserved a dead, dumb bird, so stole from a pony who's lived in near poverty your whole life, Healy is dead. And I'm going to make you understand just how much that upsets me. One particular stark, dark blast magic layer, Lupin found himself rocking backwards towards the wall, his path marked by the gradual release of his fear, due self-relieving. But any relief to be found from regaining bodily control was instantly countered by the discovery his horn would not conduct magic, for now black crystalline growths all over it. He knew of this one other time that has happened to any pony. The shining armor, as a matter of fact, except the cause of his horn growth had been one particularly infamous individual. This could only mean one thing, a fear that was conferred when he looked down from his ruined horn to the one he had been trying to destroy minutes ago. Why didn't he understand the gravity of the horrors he unleashed? Mostly blue blood once again. Rasty did not choose to cut changes in her body. Her mane and tail were gradually shifting from its regular coloration to that of a jet black, highlighted by bright red streaks. Her coat changed in falling shadow, assuming the same, much more subdued shade of red that surrounded her cutie mark was itself had changed fully. Now the 6 gems around the border were as black as the crystals on her horn. The blue heart gem now turning the same shade of raspberry Mara's coat been previously. It was her head that scared her the most. While the sun changed to her teeth had now given her 2 very dangerous-looking fangs. Her irises were now blazing blood red. It was her horn that spoke volumes. It was the same shade as her new coat, as expected, but had no ridges carved to its flawlessly smooth surface. Instead, it had a very scary curvature to it, looking much more invasive functionality. Round the tip, it blended from dark red to what looked like the spots of dried blood. I may be Raspberry Barrel, the thing that had once been a unicorn said, but it's the blood of King Somber which runs in my veins. His magic I call my own, and whose curse I bear. Make no mistake, however, because it will be my wrath, my anguish, and my horn that will claim vengeance for Heliodor. So he then grabbed Blue Blood, her magic by the neck, lifting him off the ground just enough that his hind legs were hanging uselessly in the air. Before we get to that fun part, you're going to tell me the justification for the biggest mistake of your life. What do you want? Pleaded Blue Blood. Forehead grasping at his neck, specifically trying to remove the force choking him, even though he knew it wasn't going to work. Why did you take him? Demanded Raspberry, miraculously screaming in his face, while the tears flowed freely down her face. What was so important about him that you stole him like a common thief in the middle of the night, that you somehow treated him so horribly that even his nature as a phoenix couldn't keep him alive? Since we both know he was perfectly A-OK, he will have resurrected by now! I don't know what happened. Yes, I took the bird, something of that beauty seems to be on to scum like you. What I did was put him in my parlor. Do you really think I would go to such lengths just to kill something as unique and valuable as our phoenix for any possible reason? I don't think. I just proved it. This entire time you were lobbying for my death because I used dark magic. Well, what better way for that has been proven than my reaction to the only creature I could ever trust in dying in my house, the one responsible for conveniently being 5 feet away from me. At the same time, while I may be the monster people can see on the outside, you're an even worse monster on the inside. You wouldn't dare. Why? I don't have anything to lose thanks to you. All I've got now is the need to avenge Heliodor, and nothing's not going to stop. Don't do it! Rang out Apple Blue's voice. The yellow filly stood, the inherent moral strength of her apple bloodline evident in her stance, nor afraid to carve room. Apple Blue? Stammered Raz, surprised by the appearance of a pony she confessed was guilty of abandoning her. Focus deferred. She dropped her chokehold on Blue Blood. The prince lay in a puddle of his own fear. The fact that he had more fear of mental sense stopping him from immediately trying to run, lest the crazed clone of King Somber decided to make his death quick. Raz, I don't know what exactly happened here. I thought the fact that we found Healy at Blue Blood's house would... She then saw the random pile of ass in the middle of the courtroom. The kerchief corner lying in his hair. They really happened, didn't it? Yes, but only because of this prick over here! She wheeled around and fired a burst of plastic at Blue Blood, who wisely tried to make a run for it in hopes that he would go through the doors. His hoof was a mere inch from them before he was frozen in midair, though this time he was encased in dark crystal save his muzzle, making fear how much worse he was going to be towards him by the end of his trial gone horribly wrong. And no, Apple Bloom, even though Haley was a phoenix, he was too ill for his magic to reincarnate him. He hadn't even gone through a proper one yet. Raspberry sniffed. All the things Heliodor should have been able to do by birthright was as a phoenix, now forever denied. All I have left is this damn affinity for dark magic! No, you're wrong! Applebloom proceeded to walk towards a sea of magically frozen ponies, as the hall was empty save for her, a mostly overwrought unicorn, was led to Heliodor.
I understand you're feeling like there's nobody in the world's on your side. Well, you've been living that way for so long that when you finally find police who do care, who do want help, you shut them out. But nothing. I told you could trust 12 friends. Can't you see they did their best to support you? What about those 2 old police at Travis Retreat? The one Rarity said you were like compares you never had. What about me and Dice?
But you just promised me you'd be here after the court recess.
We found a lead to where Heliodor was. The only reason she and I weren't back at the same time was because Light was waiting for you to finish using the little Phyllis road. Buddy sister and I'll let you know.
Rez couldn't find the words to express how she was feeling. She was still feeling outraged that the fact Blue Blood had been the main reason for Heliodor's death. But at the same time, she felt so stupid for being blind to everything that happened, requiring little Philly to point out how she'd been betrayed. Hell, even walking into the scene of every pony, including the 4 most powerful ponies in the country, Fortune and Time, and the responsible unicorn, having turned so much more evil, or as Raz so could refer to herself in Private One Canadian long ago, more Mary Sue-like, about to actually murder another pony outright. If only kept her faith in a pony, she by all rights should have run screaming from back on Nightmare Night.
Now, I'll tell you here some of the stuff you're shouting. I'm going to debate about how you had the blood, the horn, and the curse of King Stupid.
King Sombra corrected Raz, stifling a laugh at the filly's mistake.
That's what I was saying. King Sombrero. But he's not important. It's powerful magic. Wrong moves, there's every reason to be scared of it. But your moves aren't the wrong moves. Not when you're a good pony at heart.
Have you looked around you? I immobilized every pony here without even trying.
So? I also even an acorn was the made of all pony feel go crazy for that smarter paint stall. Like Mackie slapped on the chest under his bed. Was so bad Princess Celestia had come facing everything.
I understand what you're saying, Evelyn, but just look at me. I'm the direct descendant of one of Equestria's greatest enemies. I can do everything he did so much that my special talent of dark magic mastery prevents me from doing any other kind of magic. Who? I did not expect a sudden wave of Apple Bloom, having lost herself at the unicorn. Let's see how we'll big hug.
Well, you're not him. King Sober was an evil pony. He never used his magic for anything good for any pony. You're better than that. I only laugh because your magic was the only kind that could have kept, well, you know, her away. And all that you did with your magic normally was make James. Who cares if they're fake? You sold them because they were pretty. Let's make ponies happy. Well, okay, 6 back. But I really think he has a problem. Would have chose the exact same way if you gave him a pile of real diamonds, because he will eat them all at once.
Silence reigned as Applebloom just hugged Raspberry tighter and tighter, so that somehow worked. Amazingly it did, as the dark unicorn found the young filly's attempt at choking her somehow calming. Naturally, that calm was quickly broken. Okay, what the fuck happened in here? Shouted Lightning Dust, who appeared at the back door, with Philomena of all creatures. Jeez, we leave you alone for maybe an hour, Raz, and you tried to outdo every pony who did nothing more to do towards that plot hole, Blue Blood. Like, seriously, pretty sure you didn't need to do this to every pony, though.
Everbloom laughed. Lance is totally gonna kill you for even considering that, you know.
Lightning Dust shrugged. Her loss. Though, I had to put her mustache would look really good on her. Raz didn't hear a word of mustache discussion. The focus instead on Philomena. Red Phoenix and immediately raced to the pile of that as that once been Heliodor, a look of remorse on her face. Healy never met one of his own kind, said Raz, moving to the remains of her own Phoenix, laid down to look at the still living avian eye to eye level. Though from what I heard about you, Philomena, he would have liked you. The Phoenix seemed to consider Raspberry's words for a moment, before taking wing. Raz wasn't sure what was going on until Philomena banked around and promptly bathed the remains of Heliodor in bright crimson fire. Applebloom and Lightning Dust could only look on in horror at what was going to set off Raspberry again, since abusing Heliodor was evidently reaching a level beyond redundancy, till the ash began to move. Stirred by the constant fire of the Phoenix circling above, the ashen remains began to coalesce back into one large pile, before an instant launching upwards into a spinning cloud of gray. After a few moments, the cloud compressed down in a singular point of mass before, in a brilliant explosion, Rubio and Heliodor spread his wings to let out a mighty cry. His rebirth, however, had not given him much energy, as he struggled to even flap his wings hard enough to hover. That quickly became a non-issue, though, as a familiar, comforting black aura signaled him.
Healy!
Sad Raz, with tears once again starting to flow, but now of pure joy. Sitting back on her haunches, he brought her old friend down on an uplifting leg so she could nuzzle him.
You have absolutely, positively no idea how glad I am to have you back.
He nuzzled back with a happy cry of his own tears of happiness. Reunion being permanent instead of a fleeting few minutes.
Well, I think we can all say that we're at the same nine, Raspberry Barrel,
said the calm voice of Celestia, who had actually broken free of Raz's petrification spell a while back, honestly chosen not to interfere with Apple Bloom was accomplishing. Especially since, while there remains much to be discussed with regards to you, your little outburst has probably taught us all more about the situation than anything we could have learned from this trial.
Please, Princess Celestia, I understand if you wish to heavily punish me, but only do it on the grounds of what I did here, not on the sins of what my ancestor, whose legacy I carry on unwillingly.
Oh, no need to be so melodramatic about it, laughed Celestia, who proceeded to cast a counter spell to unpetrify all the other ponies. The blue blood remained a case of dark crystal. If you truly were Sombra's descendant in every way, you would have spent so much time imitating blue blood, instead would have killed me and Luna right away. Something he was never able to accomplish despite being the main reason he took over the Empire in the first place.
To be fair, Aunt Celestia,
said Cadence, who had been alone exactly 1 millisecond after being unpetrified before sighing instantly appeared behind her side to support her.
There were a lot of ponies who wanted to kill you back then.
True, but Sombra had one of the better reasons. No pony remembers, of course, but he was actually of royal blood and in line for the throne.
Why, it's like,
said Apple Bloom, nailed by Applejack's side.
Are you saying Reyes?
I am, Apple Bloom. Celestia promptly interrupted before returning with a warm smile to confuse Raspberry. If Raspberry Barrel is truly the descendant of Sombra, then she is of royal standing.
Can I just take a moment and say here, well, I'm always a fan of watching Blue Blood get raised and all that. I can't help but feel like this whole entire trial thing was kind of superfluous. Like, for instance, the missing Heliodor being deprived evidence was kind of a stretch, as anybody with a good law degree could have broken that. I could have done that. And I also feel like it was kind of a stretch to break her like this by saying, oh, Heliodor was, not able to get his face mode, and Philomena comes off as a Deus Ex Machina. Kind of would have preferred it if it was a fake Heliodor that Blue Blood used with some good illusion magic. Then that probably would have surprised her more and would have been better to set her off, and probably would have made the moment more heartwarming. Applejack stumbled to her room. After the mess that had been the trial, Applejack cursed the fact that she seemed to have a really bad reaction to being petrified by dark magic. Sir, Raz had been off her rocker at the time and apologized for it. Applejack herself conferring the shell-shocked unicorn by confessing to her secretly about her time as a werewolf. Raz had given an unusually strange look upon learning of Applejack's previous lycanthropy, but agreed to keep the apple farmer's secret. It was happy to have someone come talk to you about dark magic stuff if she needed to. Still didn't do anything about the massive headache that came from being unpetrified, though, which Twilight theorized was more of a reaction between Celestia's magic and Raz's magic within Applejack. But despite creating lycanthropy, would always be a little more susceptible to dark magic thanks to her blood's immunity to the worst effects dark magic would bring. The biggest headache was yet to come, however, and Applejack didn't want to think about it as she undid her mane and tail hair ties before stepping in the shower. Revelation that Raspberry Barrel was a true blade, descendant of none other than King Sombra, or rather, was explained why the unicorn was so good at dark magic, and she was in fact important enough in the royal standing to be considered a pretender to the throne. It was basically meant all the nobility ties and other stuff King Snoo had held were by blood the right of property of Raspberry. More importantly, the trial was thrown out of court thanks to Blue Blood having violated a staggering number of regulations and having taken Heliodor from the evidence chambers. So Celestia decided to flaunt her ability as a princess to do whatever she wanted,
And now, Raz's fate would be decided over a nice luncheon. I repeat, this whole trial thing felt superfluous. But a long stretch of time in between being unpetrified and actually being allowed to leave the courtyard room, as for whatever reason, the royal guard wouldn't let any pony leave until they had debriefed every pony had been in the throne room. It had almost delayed Luna from doing her main duty of raising the moon at night, which she only managed to do by breaking out the classic Royal Canterlot voice to hurry things up. Having to deal with a massive headache the entire time, Applejack took leave of her friends to go get a long night's sleep in the hopes that the headache would be gone in the morning. Thankfully, it was gone before she even fallen asleep, what she was thankful for. At least until the itching started. The fact she was so itchy surprised Applejack. Normally, the time she spent the night in the Castle Canterlot were extremely pleasant, softest of seats and pillows could ask for. Rainbow Dash! Grumbled AJ, who had come to blame for this. Honestly, the pig insisted putting itching powder in her bed as a prank. The farmer would need to figure out a way to get back at the flyer somehow. Probably just help. Then the covers started making her feel way too warm. To Applejack's knowledge, there was nothing Rainbow could have done to make her bed both super itchy and too thick. At least not having a death list by angering the entire cleaning staff at the castle. But Rainbow was dead daring. Well, now that Applejack thought about it, there hadn't been any point Rainbow could have put together any kind of prank. The Pegasus had been with her the entire day. Then the answer struck Applejack. She was super itchy all over and feeling unusually warm. It wasn't so much an itchy feeling at this point as it was an actual pain. All Applejack could do was grit her teeth and brace for what she feared the most. There was one specific time when this had happened before. She had been launched into what had become a living nightmare. But she knew that, as the ultra-familiar feelings coursed through her body, his resilience failed to prevent herself from letting loose the signature cry of the night. There was no denying it. Bronze Shield had been wrong. Arrgh!